In this module, we'll focus on the Forms Elements Intelligent Guided Test feature of Axe DevTools extension and its key features for the NYU instance. To begin a Forms test, go to the Guided Test tab and select the plus sign next to Forms to start the run.
In Step 1, the Forms IGT will attempt to automatically detect the forms on the page. Note that there may be instances when the IGT doesn't identify clearly visible forms. If this occurs, you will need to select the option starting with, "I would like to select a different form." However, if a form is correctly identified on a web page, then select Yes to continue.
In Step 2, the IGT will optimize the test and identify the individual form fields. This example found 10 fields. When the next button is selected, then the IGT will start with the first form field and ask if you want to test that field. Select No only if you want to skip the test for that given form field. Otherwise, select Yes.
Next, you'll be asked if this field is part of a group of related fields. A group means multiple fields that work together to answer a single question. For example, a set of checkboxes labeled desired majors is a group of related fields because all the checkboxes answer the same question. In contrast, text inputs like name and email may appear near each other, but they usually aren't a group, each one answers a different question. To summarize, a form is the full collection of questions. A group is a set of fields that answer one question together. And a field is a single input that answers a question on its own.
If a field is part of a group of related fields, then you will be asked to identify the other related fields using the mouse selection. Note that you should only select the inputs of the related fields and not the text labels.
However, back to our first example field of name, the correct response to the related fields question is no.
Next, the IGT is asking if there are symbols like an asterisk or text that tell you if this is a required field. In our example, the form states that the required fields are in blue. So even though the accessibility of this method is questionable, the correct response is yes.
Now, the IGT will ask you to leave the field empty and submit the form to check for possible error messages. Because the form may submit with empty values, it's recommended that you try this in a separate browser tab first. Otherwise, the form may submit and you will have to restart the IGT.
To be certain that the field being tested has its own error message, complete all the other fields, but leave the field in question blank when submitting. If any error message appears, even if it is vague, then select Yes.
Close the duplicate browser tab and return to the browser tab you are testing. Replicate the inputs from before and submit before selecting Next.
Following, you'll be asked whether the error message on the form is clear. A clear error message should identify the specific field with the issue, explain what's wrong with that field, and if needed, tell the user how to fix it. The message error, your form has errors. Please correct them and resubmit is not clear. It doesn't say what's wrong, where the problem is, or how to fix it.
An example of a clearer message would be, name is required. Enter your full name. This is better, but still not enough to say the message is fully clear. The user still has to interpret which specific question it refers to. This is especially difficult in longer forms where identifying the field can be time-consuming and frustrating. Without clearly marking the exact field and its label, the error message can still cause confusion.
So, in most cases, the best place for an error message is right next to the question it refers to. This helps make it immediately clear which field has a problem, what the problem is, and what the user needs to do to fix it, without making users search elsewhere on the page.
Moving back to the example page, the default message is not clear based on this guidance, so select No.
The next question asks you to enter bad data in the field and submit. Bad data means incomplete or invalid entries for a given field.
For email, that can mean an incomplete email. For country, that can mean an invalid response like yes. You'll need to enter something in the field for it to be considered bad data. If you submit the form with the bad data, and the error message specifically identifies the error and how to fix it, then respond yes. If you get no error message at all, then respond no. If the field cannot reasonably prevent invalid entries, like name, then select it's not possible to enter bad data for this input.
In Step 3, you'll be asked whether submitting the form completes a financial transaction, makes a legal commitment, or submits a test or exam.
Here's a good way to tell if this applies to the form. If a user accidentally submits the form and would immediately want the chance to cancel or take it back, and that mistake could lead to financial, legal, or academic consequences that are hard to fix later, then the form likely falls into one of those categories.
That's the form's IGT. Check the sections of the Axe DevTools guide for more information about other features, including the other intelligent guided tests and reporting.